Every kid falls and sprains his arm or twists his ankle or whatever, and you've got to go through those things. It's part of growing up. How these injuries impacted him and how he seemed to deal with it, he seemed okay. But in hindsight now, I see a lot of things that I wish I would have understood then that I understand now.
How you doing, bro? Good seeing you.
Good, how you doing?
You ready, man?
Yeah, let's go do this. Let's do it.
Welcome, I'm Doug.
And I'm Derek, and I'm glad to see you here.
We're here for the first installment of the Gabe Oderberg video project. A series of short videos we aim to present to help humanize mental health.
Particularly looking at some of the issues, stresses, pressures that impact young athletes.
We're going to visit with some folks, have them tell us their stories, ask a few questions, maybe open up this subject a little bit.
And hopefully gain a little wisdom along the way.
This first episode, we're going to take a look at the story of Gabe Oderberg. Awesome athlete, funny dude, wicked smart. Big D, you played ball with Gabe at CU, didn't you?
Yeah, we were teammates, but we were more like brothers. We lockered next to each other and we had a lot in common. He's a deep thinker, really soulful guy. When he took his life back in 2004, I feel like there was something that we all missed, and maybe we could have been there for him.
Gabe Oderberg grew up with his brothers Adam and Eli in the Hilltop section of East Denver, raised by proud parents Nate and Bonnie. And it was there we made our first stop to talk with Nate.
It's hard to talk about your own son without being subjective, but he was a special kind of guy, very thoughtful, very engaging. He was able to talk to everybody, old, young, grandparents. He respected his grandparents, so therefore he respected older people. He just got along with his teachers. I never knew any of my boys to hug their principal on a routine basis every time they saw him. So she always enjoyed that. He had a lot of potential, a lot of good qualities. He was turning out to be quite a young man. I was very proud of him.
Gabe was a gifted athlete who excelled in all sports, and it was at Thomas Jefferson High School where he saw his ability blossom in football.
He came in and he became very competitive, liked the coach, liked the team, liked the system, and he gravitated very well and just started blossoming there unbelievably. He liked the physicality of it, but I think it's the friendships that he gained and the camaraderie that was just unbelievable. And he believed in it. Football's a team sport, and he believed in that. His first major injury, also again at All City Stadium. It was a tough game. Took him out off the field on a stretcher. He had a concussion, got knocked out, and that's when I realized that maybe this should be the end of his football. But like everything, when you get knocked down, you get back up, and especially when you're a kid. So then, how could I take that away from him? So a few days later, he was back in school that Monday morning, and he was put on light duty, and he was not to have any contact for a couple of weeks. I was just nervous. I didn't understand what transpired, but I was concerned whether this might be the end of his career right there, or, I realized the brutality of the game and how it doesn't matter who you are or how big you are or how small you are, wrong place, wrong time, that can happen to anybody.
As he approached graduation, Gabe found himself recruited by several Division I schools, with the University of Colorado in Boulder winning out over powerhouse programs like Oregon and Iowa.
I didn't know what to expect, but obviously I walked into the auditorium pretty excited. He's got his buffalo hat on, and they got a table set up at the stage for all the jocks that just got scholarship offers, and pretty exciting.
How did Gabe handle that transition from going out of high school to playing football his freshman year in college?
Well, the first week in two-day practices, you got a chance to call home from, I think, one of the hotels that you were staying in, and I can hear my wife telling him no, he can't come home, and that he signed a commitment and he's going to have to own up to it. We all had some of those anxieties when you start with your 2 days and you can't call home and you can't get a hold of anybody. The next level is always a scary situation, so like any person going to the next transition, this was also going to be a transition. Signing and playing are two different things.
What was football like after that? How was his playing career up at University of Colorado?
Well, he loved the team. He was truly a buff, and he would bleed black and gold. I could see that he was taking to it quite well, and he liked the workouts. He liked the challenge, and he liked the school life up there.
So he was having fun?
He was having fun.
On the field and in school?
Yes.
Derek and I headed up to Boulder and talked with Gabe's friend and teammate, Carl Alice.
People sometimes scoff at using, the kind of war analogy, but, in all due respect, it is like that because, you kind of come in together as a battalion and you have this shared experience too. That's just such a regimented type thing. So it's like going to war. He was a war buddy. We kind of all got together as freshmen, right before camp, right before practice start up. And, it's like ducks on the pond. I mean, on the surface, we're all, just, mean face. But underneath the surface, it's just, it's terror. Yeah. It really is. But terror. I remember one guy being almost like bumped by saying, that guy, it's not that he was cocky. He was just, cocksure, and that's Gabe. Like, he was confident in what's going on. I don't know if it was because, he's kind of a local guy and that may have played into it somewhat, but I kind of looked to him and knew if he was confident that it was going to be okay, then maybe I should be confident that it was all going to be okay. Gabe was wise. It wasn't that just he was studious. He was really a guy who was wise beyond his years and could really take kind of any kind of subject and kind of boil it down and come up with something really, really great.
We also met up with another close friend and teammate, Victor Rogers, himself a former NFL player for the Detroit Lions. And it seemed he felt the same way about Gabe.
Gabe was just a deep dude, you know what I mean? He was a great spirit, he was extremely loyal, but he was just a deep guy. And I think that was the main thing that kind of made us two click, is because we could talk about so much more than just football and what was going on. I mean, we would talk about the war over in the Middle East and everything like that. And I mean, there would be nights where we would just meet up somewhere and it'd be 2 o'clock in the morning on a Friday, Saturday night while we're supposed to be out doing the things that college kids do, drinking, chasing girls, and we'd be sitting up there arguing about politics and religion and, talking about religious conspiracies and everything like that. He was just a deep dude. If I had to say, I would say he was probably an old man in a young guy's body, like mentality wise. He just got it. You know what I mean? He just got it. At that age, when everybody's just kind of trying to go with the rat race, really was trying to figure out what his purpose was even at being, 20 years old, 19, 20 years old, just kind of was really important, was like, what was his purpose? What was he there to be? What was he on this planet? What was his ultimate goal? What was his purpose in life?
Gabe was interested in a lot of things. As a matter of fact, football was not his only thing. That was his. That belonged to him. It's a lot of the other things that he shared. Discussions, philosophies, religions, cultures. We just had wonderful conversations that were just open, not just about football. Football was just, it belonged to him.
Gabe moves on through freshman year and starts to play. What was his first injury like up at CU? What happened with that?
Well, the injuries that I knew of was really when they were playing a national game. I believe it was against Fresno State. Fresno State, and
first game of the season, 2001.
And right, and it was a night game, big game.
45 yards. And we have a player down. It's 57, Gabe Oderberg. You can see his neck gets ricocheted there. He's in an awkward position, and somebody inadvertently, nobody did it on purpose, but came across with a knee or a thigh pad, and can't speculate on what the injury is. You just hope that it's something minor.
Take a lot of precautions when it involves the head or the neck as well.
Gabe got up and ran off the field after being knocked out, and I could tell that he was not in good shape. So the minute he got to the bench, I could see he was in trouble, and so did the coaches. He went through 2 back surgeries. The first one, the family went to see the doc. All of us did with Gabe down here at Rose Hospital. And he indicated that the surgery would be okay, but he couldn't guarantee that Gabe would play, but that would be up to Gabe. Gabe made up his mind, even after we were all there, that he was going to try have the procedure and then rehab it. And that's what he did. All indications were that he was doing it, but until his first contact, everything was going well. But after the first contact play, they could see that he was having trouble.
That's when he realized, huh?
Well, he had to go down a second time.
The injury resulted in Gabe enduring 2 back surgeries, endless rehab, a lot of pain, and the end of his football career. Despite the setback, Gabe was determined to contribute to the CU Buffs program.
He would help coach, assistant coach, with some of the younger guys. So I says, okay, if he has that love of the game and he sees there's more to the sport than just the physical hitting. He understood the mental aspect of the game, but he was more about the other guys pushing through and helping them.
Gabe began by helping offensive linemen, offering support in areas he knew all too well. Here's a clip of him giving a talk to new players in 2003.
The last 6 months, the last few years have been hard, but I'm just going to talk about the last 6 months. Getting my back fixed up again. As a result of that, I was addicted to Percocet. I was addicted to morphine when I was in the hospital. I was walking around campus with a cane, asked for Marcus Harris. I was standing up in one of our classes, taking the final in front of the class, couldn't sit down. And that's kind of where my energy had been focused on. And I knew at that point I wasn't playing football anymore once I had that surgery, but my mind had kind of been focused on just getting my back better, my body better, so I could just function as a human.
He was growing as a man. I saw a youthful guy going up there, exploring the world with the high ideals, and now he was dealing with adult situations that he shouldn't have had to as a young man.
Although helping the team proved gratifying, Gabe was finding it difficult to transition into a life without playing the game he had focused on for all these years.
In the last 10 years of my life, every August, this is what I was doing. And then all of a sudden, it's not there anymore. So it's hard, but I'm thankful that the coaches have allowed me to come here and help some of the young guys out and kind of hang around and do what I can do. And I appreciate you young guys listening to me. It really means a lot. But the thing I want to say to you is, don't take for granted your body and what you guys get to do every day.
Gabe was talking to my wife as well about different things. He was talking about maybe going back to school, getting a teaching certificate, and maybe getting involved in coaching or teaching at some level. And so that was what we were thinking about. And I was wondering how he was going to deal with that, because, you know, when he could say something, but I wanted to understand that he was really interested in investing his time to do that. Yeah, because you just got done with 5-6 years of rehabbing and dealing with football and the injuries. And so I didn't know if he was really quite ready for that yet.
Outwardly, Gabe seemed to maintain a positive attitude to friends and family, though there were moments when the facade would fall.
The only things that I was able to put together were at different times that people, in hindsight, told me that a couple of times that he would break out into tears. And one was from my cousin in Israel, his wife. When we had an opportunity to get together, we talked about that, and she told me that when she was here. And his aunt down in Arizona, when all of a sudden he had a little conversation with her at one time. She didn't understand why he broke up and cried in front of her during a dialogue, and it wasn't him.
In 2003, Gabe was working in Arizona, still struggling to figure out his future. And it was later that year that, inexplicably, Gabe called his dad and simply asked if he could come home, which at once delighted and concerned Nate.
I knew something was up. I really wasn't quite sure what, but you know, I just sort of chalked it off that he was transitioning. He was looking for himself. Didn't think in terms of maybe there's something physically or mentally wrong with him. Didn't dawn on me. Talked to him whenever I could. He seemed to be in pretty good spirits, and then at other times not so much. He would try to isolate himself or go into the backyard and stuff, and then he'd meet up with his friends, or he didn't want to stay home for very long. He was staying with us, but he found things to do, and one of the things, he was going to go up and see some of the people up at CU to see if he wanted to enter into something in the academic side and go back and see what it might take to get a teaching certificate. He was supposed to meet up with somebody the day actually that he took his life. It was a rainy day, and I saw him take out of the house, and he told me he's running down the street to meet up with one of his friends, Oren, didn't live very far away. So he was going to run over there, and he got into his shorts, his CU stuff, and typical, like he always did, he thought about using the occasion to work out a little bit, so he took off and ran. And for a guy that's rehabbed and going through difficult times, he still pushed himself. He loved to run. And I thought to myself, physically he looks okay to me when he's running, but I really don't know what kind of pain he's in or not. And because he had a beautiful gait, and he could, for a big man, he sure could move quick. And he covered a lot of territory in no time at all, so I just watched him run down the street until he got out of sight to where he was going. And I thought, you know, this is going to be okay. He's going to visit with his buddies, going to go take a hike in the mountains with them. And he was supposed to meet somebody for an interview about education, teaching certification, that type of thing. And apparently he didn't keep that appointment, and my wife got calls that he wasn't there, and I wasn't sure where he was. And it was a dreary day, and it rained all day, and then I came home.
10 days upon his return from Arizona, Gabe Oderberg took his life at the age of 23, which stunned family and friends alike.
I was just stunned. To this day, I'm still stunned. Yep. You know what I mean? When it comes up, it's like for somebody who mentally, from the outside, was so deep and had it so much together, for the outcome to be like that it's still something to this day. I mean, my wife knows about it, everything. It's like something that, for me, is a life-changing moment. You know what I mean? Like, he was my boy.
I was on a job interview for something I didn't get or even want to get ultimately, and it was something that I had, I mean, the early days of flip phones and stuff, and I just kept having buzzing and buzzing and buzzing, and finally I had to just look into it, and it just said Gabe died, and I was just crushed and excused myself and basically had, you know, kind of a moment, and ended up saying, I can't do this interview anymore, I gotta go. And
whenever dealing with a tragedy such as suicide, it's inevitable, I guess, to ask the hardest question first. Why?
Why does anybody go to war? Because we think it's the right cause. We do things for what we think are the right reasons. My son loved to play football, and he liked the camaraderie. He liked part of the action, and it was part of his life. It had become part of his life, but it wasn't the most important thing in his life. It became just a part of his life, and so he was looking for the other parts to fill it out, and they didn't come. But here, all of a sudden, my biggest problem is I felt that I knew my son quite well. I was close enough to him to where this didn't make sense. Things didn't add up for me. And all the answers that I was getting was not acceptable. I couldn't just sweep it under the rug. And it dawned on me that, you know, all I need to do is continue to do what Gabe would have done. And if he would have pursued this to no end, like I'm doing, like I've tried to do, to find out what it is that happened to him. Because all the things that I kept coming up with and everybody else's suggestions didn't satisfy the reasons for his death, why he was where he was at. So I started doing all kinds of research and following up, and I felt like I was carrying Gabe on my shoulder the whole time, and that I couldn't let go. And so I kept saying to myself, what is it that Gabe would have done if this was reversed? And I kept thinking, that's what I got to do. I got to do what Gabe would have wanted me to do, and that's to pursue this thing, to find out what it is that got him, because he cared about his teammates, his family, if you will, up at CU. I know he cared about our family. What changed in him? Was it chemical? Was it mental? Was it physical? Was it a combination of both? Those are the things that I wanted to find out, and I had a hard time doing it.
Derek and I tried to make sense of something that makes no sense at all. But we could see that Gabe was battling a lethal mix of pain and depression, something that no one seemed to recognize, maybe not even Gabe himself. We visited with psychologist Dr. Charles Horowitz to see if we couldn't get some more insights on this. What's been your experience with especially athletes maybe struggling with some issues like depression?
I just had a former professional athlete and today I was working with, struggling with depression and chronic pain. And it's a really tough thing. I was an athlete myself, not big time like that. But when you're into a sport as a professional or as a full-time amateur, it's everything to you. It's your whole identity.
And I feel like I hear you saying, a guy like Gabe, you, that pattern of excelling at such a high level that a huge part of yourself is invested in the athletic identity, and something like an injury or all kinds of different pieces could intervene there. But then it really, the loss of that athletic self can be maybe a piece of the puzzle there, huh? Real challenge for a guy like Gabe.
That's everything.
It's
You're everything. You'll see from both the research of WHO, the World Health Organization, and the National Institute of Health in Washington, that consistently, according to the research, 1 out of 4 persons right now has a mental illness, diagnosable. It can be anxiety, it can be depression, substance abuse, PTSD. Those are the most common kinds of things that hit every other person. Insomnia, another one. Depression is the #1 disability in the world. I'm talking about scientists, engineers, famous people of all kinds. US presidents, Duke University did a study showing that 44% of US presidents, including especially Abe Lincoln, had mental illnesses. He had terrible depression.
So with the story of a guy like Gabe, do you feel like that there's any signs that folks could look for?
You know, there are signs, and they're commonly published if you look up any suicidal prevention. Mood changes. If you see somebody who's usually in a certain mood and they've changed their mood big time, ask them what's going on. Ask them, say, I noticed your mood's really changed. You seem kind of pissed off lately. Tell me what's eating you. And when somebody asks you how you're feeling when you feel bad, and they really give you room to tell the truth, it's huge. Bearing witness to somebody, bearing witness, simply hearing and feeling what they say, that is huge. Suicide is a permanent solution to what may well be a temporary problem. When you're depressed, it seems like it's going to be forever. Just like when your heart has been broken by somebody, you feel like it's going to be forever. When you're down, average people feel like it's going to be forever. But the truth is, it's not that way. It's just like when your team loses the Super Bowl, you feel like it's the end of the world. And in a way it is for the moment, you know, that's the end of the line for the moment. But there will be a next season, and there will be next spring. In wintertime here, it seems like spring's never going to come sometimes when we're having those 20 below zero days. But it is going to come. So I'd say, hang in there, brother. Come on, anything you can do. Let's take a vacation. Let's get some help. Let's do anything that we can do. And I'd say it's going to take you a lot of courage to admit that you're depressed. And that's worth it. You're worth it. Just your being is worth it. Just your being is worth it. If you could just remember in that state that it's an illusion, as much of an illusion as we're still right now. We are still, is true, and we're moving at 55,000 miles an hour at the same time as this Earth spins and moves with the sun. If you could know, just hang in there, do anything.
As we move forward with the Gabe Oderberg video project, Nate is hopeful that we shine this light upon the needs of Gabe's teammates and brethren in all areas of athletics. Because they're more than teammates, these men and women are family.
Those guys are important to me. As a result, I know that that was part of Gabe's family, so I want those guys to be able to share their stories with me and you, and all of us, so that we can better understand what it is that happened to Gabe. Because I got a feeling that some of the answers are there with the guys that were on his team, because I believe that a lot of them suffered through some of the same kind of things that Gabe did. And so the sharing of their experiences might be useful for all of us going forward.
We're here at Derek's house, and we've had a big day talking with some folks and asking some questions and hearing a lot of stories. And our kids are having a play date downstairs, Derek. Man, it sure makes me realize how important it is, all this stuff we're talking about.
Absolutely. Just hearing them laughing and having fun downstairs really kind of puts everything in perspective for me. I think back to conversing with Gabe in college, and he was suffering some pain from injuries. He wasn't able to play.
A lot of physical pain.
Absolutely, a lot of physical pain. And during our conversations, he would refer to what he called the pursuit of everlasting nothingness. And looking back in retrospect, it sort of seems like that could have been a sign that he was struggling to find some purpose outside of his identity in football. And I didn't have the wisdom at the time, but if I could go back to the day before Gabe took his life, I would assure him that I'm someone he can talk to, and we can talk about this, and whatever you're experiencing right now, it's temporary.
I think a big thing that keeps hitting me too is how we might not have answers here, but how important it is to just take a first step and just start talking about it.
Absolutely. I look at your show, A Day for Grace, and I was sitting in the audience not knowing what to expect, and I saw you on stage, this guy portraying all of the human emotions, and it was just like, wow, thank you for showing that as guys we're human and setting up a platform to talk to us guys, football players. You brought us in and created a safe space to talk, and I can't thank you enough for that, because I think this dialogue, it's the start of us as men evolving and making this world for our kids a better place by supporting each other.
Thank you, Derek, and thank you for being willing to talk about it.
Oh, thank you, Doug.
Right on.
Love you, brother.
Love you, dude.